So I was doing a podcast yesterday, and by the time this video is out, you guys will probably have already seen it or I'll already have shouted it out. But I was doing a podcast yesterday, and we got on the topic of men versus women, which is very clearly a big topic of discussion in this day and age. There seems to be this big gender war going on where people are allergic to accountability, if I'm being frank. People are afraid to take responsibility for their actions, and they'd much rather divert the blame onto other people, especially people of the opposite gender. Now, I can't really speak too much about the women doing this because I'm more in the manosphere. I'm more on the men's side of self help. So, in my experience, I've gotten a chance to see up close and personal all of the men who hold resentment towards women. And it's honestly amazing to see. It's amazing to see just how much resentment one can harbor in their heart because of what one or two or maybe three people did to them. All of a sudden, they hate half of the population. And they hide behind this rationale of this is just the way that it is. It's female nature, it's inherent in their biology. But I think that's a very limiting perspective. And I think that once you transcend your emotions, you realize that. And that's kind of the main thing that I want to talk about is the way that men and women handle their emotions is different. Now, I was watching a video from Jordan Peterson where he was talking about how men, they strive for perfection and women strive for wholeness. And what that means is that men tend to be one-track minded. They basically obsess over the things that they want, which a lot of times it can be their career, it can be the improvement of themselves and their lives or their financial situations, things of that nature. Whereas women tend to look for a more balanced life, which is why you don't really see too many women putting in 80-hour work weeks to start a business. I'm not saying that no women are doing that. There are definitely exceptions to the rule, but as a general rule of thumb, most of these people doing that are men. And I feel like the reason why that is because of how men and women handle their emotions. A lot of men, especially in the self-development space, have experienced some degree of pain in their life, some type of adversity that has gotten them on their self-development journey. And I'm no exception to that. And what this has taught me is that men channel their emotions, women process their emotions. Now, what does that mean? When a man and a woman break up, where do you typically see the man? You'll find that man in the gym, putting in work, working on his body. You'll find him starting up a business or getting on his grind, trying to get to the bag. Whereas women, a woman might be down atrocious for about 2 or 3 weeks. She might be in bed crying all day. But as the weeks and months go on, you'll notice a very distinct difference in their general well-being. Now, from the outside looking in, the man will look like he's come a very long way because from the surface, from the outside looking in, you'll see maybe the money that he has, maybe he bought a new car, maybe he's gotten himself into great shape, things like that, things that are very tangible and visible. And I think that men tend to operate on logic, so they see that and they assume that the man is doing better. But a lot of times, the woman is actually the one who feels better because she's processed her emotions. Now, I'm not saying that you should not channel your emotions into whatever it is that you want to accomplish in life, because my YouTube channel is the result of me channeling my emotions. The first time I got my heart broken, I focused so heavily on YouTube because, and I'm being completely transparent with you guys, I'm being very open about this, but I wanted to outdo the person who broke my heart. I wanted to make sure that I did better than them in life. And it took me probably 6 months to a year to realize that I was running that race by myself. She wasn't trying to compete with me. She was living her own life. She was doing her own thing. Because as a general rule of thumb, that's what women do. They process their emotions and then they move on. Whereas a lot of men, they harbor this resentment because instead of processing their emotions, they simply use their emotions as fuel, which, like I said, that can be a great thing. That's where a lot of great legacies are made. Michael Jordan, He got cut from his basketball team as a sophomore in high school. His varsity basketball team. You're not even supposed to make varsity as a sophomore. But it hurt him so bad that he went on to become the greatest player of all time. So it can be a very beneficial thing in terms of building a legacy. But what about in terms of your personal, emotional, spiritual well-being? If you're harboring all of this pain and resentment your whole life, how are you ever going to find peace? And that's why I feel like we need to find a nice middle ground. I think that it's very important to be balanced in your approach to handling your emotions. You see, a lot of men, they get so caught up in the idea of female nature and of watching these female nature red pill videos because they don't know how to process their emotions, so they hide behind their resentment. They hide behind this idea of rationale, but once you move past that, you realize just how illogical it actually is. You see, a lot of you guys, you don't need to be watching female nature videos. You need to be seeking therapy, which is why I want to introduce you to BetterHelp, the sponsor of today's video. Now, if this video is frustrating you in any way, shape, or form, the chances are you need therapy more than anyone else. And the reason why I know that is because I was once in your shoes. When I got my heart broken for the first time, I didn't want to hear anything that went against the idea of female nature, because it brought me a sense of truth. It brought me a temporary sense of peace, an illusionary sense of peace. But in reality, it was just that, an illusion, a facade, a masquerade for my emotional trauma that I was dealing with. And I found confirmation bias in all of these other men who were going through the same thing, and all of the influencers who choose to profit off of those men. Like I said earlier, we need to find the proper balance between processing our emotions and channeling our emotions. But it starts with processing our emotions, and that's where BetterHelp comes into play. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist, with whom you can start communicating within 48 hours, 2 days of signing up. It's not a crisis line, it's not self-help, it's professional counseling done securely online. So all of the things that you talk about with your counselor are confidential. So you can pour your heart out, talk about all of your emotional trauma, all of the rejections that you faced, all of the times that women have done you dirty, and nobody will ever have to know except you and your counselor. There's a broad range of expertise in BetterHelp's 15,000 plus counselor network, a lot of which is not available locally in many areas. This service is available for clients worldwide, and you can log in at any time and send a message to your counselor. You'll get timely and thoughtful responses, and in addition to that, you can also schedule a weekly video or phone call so that you won't have to wait in an uncomfortable waiting room as you would in traditional therapy settings. I know a lot of you men, you operate based on your ego. You're very prideful. I understand that. I'm no different. So this is a great way for you to seek therapy without anyone ever having to know about it. BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it free and easy to change counselors whenever you see fit. And it's more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and financial aid is available. BetterHelp wants you to start living a happier life today. So visit betterhelp.com/Jordan Green. That's betterhelp.com/Jordan Green. And join the over 1 million people taking charge of their mental health by seeking professional counsel. And because you're using my link, you get 10% off your first month. So no excuses. Go sign up for therapy because a lot of you guys genuinely need it. You need to learn to process your emotions properly. And here's the reason why. If you don't learn to process your emotions, you'll never be able to channel your emotions to your fullest capacity, to your fullest extent. How can you possibly expect to channel your emotions, to transmute your emotions, which is an indication of emotional mastery, if you don't even give yourself a chance to practice your emotions? What is one skill that you can acquire and master without practice? There is no skill, and emotions are no exception to that. You see, I've learned to become a very stoic person through the processing of my emotions. I don't avoid my emotions. I just know how to utilize them in a way that works for me. I know how to utilize my emotions to create and inspire other people and make them feel less alone. And that's something that anyone can do if you give yourself a chance to practice your emotions. Now, like I said, a lot of times men and women, they lack that balance within. Men, they struggle with processing their emotions, which greatly limits the amount of channeling or transmutation that they can do with those emotions, which limits the things that they can do in life. Whereas a lot of women, they tend to struggle with channeling their emotions, because once they process their emotions thoroughly, they lose any and all ambition to channel those emotions because they've already run their course. But what you have to understand is that it's all about balance. If you can learn to balance those two aspects of yourself, the masculine and the feminine, you can accomplish amazing things in this life. You can accomplish things that you did not previously think were possible for you or for anyone else. But you're never going to do that if you keep hiding behind this idea of female nature, if you refuse to take accountability for your own life and your own actions. You see, you have to understand that the more you focus on that specific type of woman, the gold diggers, the OnlyFans girls who may be very shallow and materialistic and only care about what you can provide for them, what you can offer them. They want transactional love, not unconditional love. The more you focus on those women, the more you're going to find them in real life. It's the law of attraction. It's basic manifestation. And this isn't some spiritual video. This is simple logic. When you focus in your mind on one thing, you're going to find that one thing. Even if your intention is to avoid that one thing, you're still going to find that, because the thoughts that consume your mind become your outer reality. This is the same way that wealth works. If you want to accumulate wealth, you think wealthy thoughts. If you want to find women who maybe aren't the best for you, women who aren't looking for true love, you're going to find that if that's all you think about. And when you consume these red pill videos, that's what you're going to find. You are consuming that content, you are absorbing it into your subconscious mind, and you will unconsciously seek out those specific women to give yourself that confirmation bias, thus making that belief system stronger. And the reason why I know that is because I experienced it for myself. I experienced it. Once I started to consume red pill content, I told myself that I'm going to avoid any and all women who are like that. And what happened? I ended up meeting a girl who fit that description to a T. And I'm very grateful that that happened, because had that not happened, I wouldn't have been able to transcend those old belief systems and move on into belief systems that were more empowering and find the relationship that I ended up in for the better part of 7 months. But of course, in order to do that, I had to process my emotions. I had to give myself a chance to feel sad, to feel that grief thoroughly from any and all times that I had been rejected, any times that I felt like I had been done wrong, like I had been victimized by a woman. And once I gave myself the chance to process my emotions, I was able to see things so much more clearly. Things became so much more rational to me. I realized that they didn't victimize me. I victimized myself by putting myself into situations that I knew didn't serve me. I learned the power of taking accountability. A lot of men talk about how women are afraid of accountability, but a lot of men are afraid of accountability as well. They just they project it in a different way. They project it by watching all of these red pill videos and diverting the blame to female nature. If you take nothing else from this video, just remember this. The red pill was never meant to be about women. The red pill is about focusing on yourself and taking accountability for your own life. It's about understanding the idea that you create your own reality with your thoughts, your beliefs, your feelings, and your actions. And once you learn to harness all of those things, including your emotions, your feelings, you will be able to manifest the life that you desire effortlessly. But it's all on you to make that decision.